I'm not going to waste any time, so let's just get straight into it. And coming in at number 21, we have Boy. Now, I've played Gang Beasts on and off over the years, and at some point they updated a couple of the maps, and one of them was Boy. I think they did a really good job changing it. It's definitely better than it used to be. Adding more ice and making it break up and melt over time definitely adds to the fun of the map. I can't remember if the shark always used to be a part of the map, but it also adds another fun element to it. However, I can never get past the frustrating nature of the water. I feel like at some point they need to do an update to make swimming more convenient. It very quickly becomes frustrating when your friend throws you into the water and you helplessly throw your arms around and slowly sink. The actual buoy in the middle always adds a bit of fun to the round, whether you're climbing inside of it or on top. I think buoy gets more fun the later into the round you are, but overall it's better than it used to be, but definitely isn't perfect. Number 20, Subway. I wasn't sure where to place Subway on this list at first because I feel as though I used to like it a lot more than I do now. I just find it's either frustrating or just too simple. One of the most frustrating situations in the entire game is getting stuck down on the tracks and not being able to climb back up. I'm not too bad at climbing myself, but sometimes I wonder whether my character actually wants to get hit by the train. Most of the left side of the map isn't that interesting. There's only so much you can do with the vending machine. Getting thrown on the tracks behind the stairs is basically a death sentence because you can't see a character. I find most of the fun occurs when you're climbing on the lights or fighting your friends around the staircase area. I hate saying that the best part of this map is the stairs, but it is. The same can be said for towers, but that's better because the stairs are kind of random when they collapse. The randomness of the trains does add an element of fun and suspense to Subway. It's just not one of my favourite maps. At number 19, we have Train. Just to be clear, I don't hate any of these maps, even Boy. But what a lot of these maps down the bottom of my list have in common is frustration. I don't even know if you can call the gravity on Train realistic, but sometimes it's just plain annoying. If the gravity on Train was more like trucks, then I'd probably enjoy it more. There's not a whole lot you can do on Train. You can occasionally get a fun fight down by the railing at the front of the train, but that's about it. By the time the boulders start falling, most of you will probably already be dead, and on the rare occasion when you see the final boulder approaching in the distance, it can make your fights a lot more fun and intense. I think fixing the gravity and possibly making one carriage disappear maybe every minute, rather than half the train breaking off in the first 30 seconds, would make the map more enjoyable. Again, Train isn't a bad map, I'd just rather play the ones further up my list. Coming in at number 18, we have Billboard. I tend to prefer the smaller maps in Gang Beasts, but there is something I just don't particularly like about Billboard. There's a whole half to the map that you can get to but just can't see at all. Being able to pull the panels off the wall and floor adds some versatility to the map but doesn't really achieve much. One knockout and you're pretty much guaranteed death. Perhaps I've just heard my dad complaining about Billboard too much. If he ranked every map, I can guarantee he would place Billboard at number 21. I'm not too sure what could be added to Billboard to make it more interesting. It's not a very creative map and usually lasts the least amount of time than any other map. The most exciting part of Billboard is when the round surprisingly goes for more than 1 minute and you're just left wondering how more than one of you are still alive. The only reason Billboard isn't last on my list is because it doesn't really have a frustrating feature. It's just a very simple map. Number 17, Containers. I always used to like containers, but now I'm not too sure about it. Something about being knocked out and thrown off the map within the first 3 seconds just makes me dislike this map. However, the map has some redeeming features. The random movements and rotations of the containers is always fun, and you can jump between the containers. There's even an element of skill to this map, as it can be difficult to climb inside of the containers. If you want to mess with your friends, you can always destroy the poles that hold the containers up and watch them fall into the water. But if I'm not mistaken, the containers just completely fall off if you destroy 2 of the poles, which I don't particularly like, but I'm going to have to try it again because it's been a number of years since I last did. Containers certainly isn't a bad map. There's a decent amount of floor space and there's a good level of randomness to it. It's just the first 3 seconds that either make it really fun or really frustrating. Coming in at number 16, we have one of the newest maps in the game, Aquarium. I remember being very excited when I first found out this map had been added. I also remember enjoying it a lot more when it first came out. And look, I'm not going to waste any time because I just need to ask this question that's been bothering me. Are there less tentacles now? Or did they just come out really late into the round? Because I'm sure after only a minute or two there used to be at least 4 tentacles. And just recently I've only seen 1 or 2 tentacles a decent way into the round. Maybe it's just me, but my one critique would just be to add more tentacles or at least release them earlier into the round. And also there's not a whole lot of ways you can take out your friends on this map. And I'll include the same comment I put on Boy, and that's the frustration of swimming. 90% of the time you're going to die a good 2 to 3 minutes into the round when the tentacles actually decide to start attacking you. And other than that, you'll be spending most of the round aimlessly knocking each other out. At number 15 we have Blimp, another map that I swear changed in an update a couple of years ago. To me, Blimp feels a lot more slippery now. I remember being able to climb all the way down to the bottom before, now I can barely hold on to anything. I do like how they added the tilting mechanic to the map. The pink tail at the back is fun to fight on and there's a good amount of floor space. I think Blimp is actually a perfectly sized map. There's just enough space to run around your friends, but then an unexpected tilt can catch you off guard and it'll be the end of your round. I think Blimp is an alright map. There's certainly no frustrating features that come with the map. It's only frustrating when your friends knock you off the back of the Blimp and you can't see anything. But the same can be said for Billboard, Containers, Subway, Train Trawl, Events and Wheel. I feel like Blimp is right in the middle of the okay maps and the good maps. I don't complain whenever I see Blimp pop up on my screen, but there's definitely much more interesting maps in Gang Beasts. Number 14, Roof. Probably my dad's favourite map, and I can't argue with him. There's plenty to do on Roof, and it actually takes skill to take down everyone. Especially when compared to maps like Containers, where it just comes down to whoever can press buttons the quickest. I'd say these top 14 maps are considered the good maps, and everything below Blimp is an okay map. Roof certainly has a lot of good features. It has the breakable skylight, the antennas, and the billboards that you can push off the side. Whether you think this map is good or not comes down to your playstyle. I like the smaller maps because it makes the fights more intense, action-packed, and interesting. My dad likes Roof for the opposite reasons. It takes skill to be able to knock someone out in the middle, pick them up, run quickly to the edge and throw them off. Or you can bait someone to the edge of the map and then take them down by surprise. Every round you have on Roof will be different. Number 13, Incinerator. I was always going to place Roof and Incinerator next to each other. They're the biggest maps in the game and because of that they play off quite similarly. Incinerator is only higher on the list than Roof because it has the conveyor belts. Oh, and also the giant pit of fire. Some of the best fights I've had in the game have been on the conveyor belts on Incinerator. Bigger maps are always a scared player's best friend because there's always somewhere for them to run and hide. I prefer fighting close to the fire pit because it makes the round more enjoyable for me. There's not a whole lot to complain about on Incinerator. There's plenty to do, whether you're on the rooftop, in the little room, on the conveyor belt, hanging on the edge of the fire pit, or running from your friends who are all teaming up on you because you only need 1 point to win the game. Overall, Incinerator is a fun and versatile map that is probably more liked by those who like the bigger maps. Coming in at number 12, we have Lighthouse. Lighthouse lands around the middle of this list because it's not too simple, not too overcomplicated, not too big, and not too small. You know what you're getting when you play Lighthouse, and that's what I like about it. It even comes down to things like secretly removing the floor panels at the back of the map when no one is looking, and baiting your friends over to that area and watching them fall down the hole you made. Removing the floor is definitely the best part of this map in my opinion. Even things like smashing the glass and jumping through the windows is a cool feature. You can choose to play safe inside, or play more risky outside. My one complaint about this map is the fact that you can't climb on the roof. I would love it if you could get all the way to the top. But overall, Lighthouse is a good map where the rounds aren't too long or too short and there isn't much to complain about unless you're the first one to be thrown off the edge. At number 11, we have Towers. Towers is basically a bigger version of Lighthouse in a way, but I'd have to say, the best part of Towers is the staircase, and I think anyone would agree. It's sometimes a bit difficult to see a character if you're standing right at the back of the map, but let's be honest, who actually goes back there? All the excitement happens at the front of the map. One of my favourite parts of the whole game is actually the suspense of never knowing when the stairs are going to collapse. Sometimes I choose to drop someone who's been knocked out at the bottom of the stairs rather than throw them off, because it's fun watching them panic as they wake up and the stairs start to creak. Towers finds itself right in the middle of my list because it's an all-rounded map. I can understand why some people don't like it. All I can say is that just ignore the back of the map and just fight at the front. There's still plenty to do at the front of the map. Moving into the top 10, and at number 10 we have Grind, the loudest map in the game. Other than me going deaf every time I play on this map, Grind is another all-rounded map. There are multiple ways to take down your friends, whether it's the pink liquid, the floor grinds, or the wall grinds. It's a weird thing to say, but I think the best and worst part of this map is the fences. There are a lot of fences. I find my character often getting stuck on them, but other than that, there aren't really any other negatives about this map. The best part of the fences is being able to break them off and basically being able to choose where you want the holes in the map to be. You can decide where you want the dangerous part of the map to be. I would, however, love to see a version of this map that was a little more spaced out. Maybe a version with more bridges across a bigger grind in the floor. Overall, Grind is another fun map in Gang Beasts, and nothing is more satisfying than seeing your friend slowly getting pulled into the grind. At number 9, we have Chutes. For some reason I always get this map and Grind mixed up. One of them has grinds, and the other has Chutes. But anyway, Chutes is a map that I wasn't really expecting to find this high up on my list, but when I stopped and thought about it, I really enjoy myself every time I play on this map. I think it's a very cleverly designed map. The walkway at the back of the map is just the perfect width, unlike Billboard, where one wrong step and you're gone. The walkway is just the right size, where if you knock someone out, you can throw them down to the chutes if you're quick. If the walkway was any wider, it would be frustrating to try and drag anyone knocked out to the chutes before they woke up. What I do like is that there's a safe way to play in this map, being on the walkway at the back, and a risky way, being around the actual chutes. The randomness of the different sausages and meatballs falling from the roof definitely adds to the fun of this map, and overall Chutes is one of the better big maps. Coming in at number 8, we have Wheel. Now, if I were ranking these maps a couple of years ago, I would have 100% ranked Wheel at number 1. I think reducing the number of burgers on the wheel definitely made this map worse. However, Wheel is certainly not a bad map. Actually, I prefer the dock in front of the wheel now compared to the old version. I love how both the wheel and the dock crack and collapse over time. I wish it happened at a slightly quicker rate, but it's still a very cool feature. Unfortunately, Wheel is one of the few maps with water. However, this can be overlooked as there are still many positives to this map, even if it's not as good as it used to be. I think there's still that slightly glitchy side to this map, which I absolutely love. I feel as though the wheel used to get a lot faster on the old version and used to randomly explode a lot more. But I still love this map, and it's definitely deserving of its top 10 spot. Number 7, Girders. Like Chutes, I was not expecting Girders to make it this high onto my list. I always knew what my top 3 or 4 maps were, but I'd never really sat down and thought about what my next favourites were until I made this list. Girders is like the suspenseful version of Roof. It's slightly smaller than Roof, has more dangerous aspects, and overall makes for a more fun experience. Some people may not like the floor panels falling when you stand on them, but I'm one of the people who do. It just means you've got to keep moving, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some of my favourite features of this game are the ones like removing the floor on Billboard and Lighthouse, destroying the stairs on Towers, and pulling down as many fences as I can on maps like Grind and Chutes. The more floor panels I can make fall off, the better. And nothing beats knocking your friend out and throwing them down the infamous flower pots, as I call them. Girders has definitely grown on me over time, and it deserves its number 7 ranking. Coming in at number 6, vents. I'm going to get my complaints out of the way first because they're not even that important. My first one is actually more of a question. I swear when the vents suck downwards, it used to make the panels on the bridge collapse. I haven't seen that happen in a long time. Did they change something? My other complaint is not really being able to tell where you're going to land when you're flying up in the air and the downward vents are about to turn off. And now that I think about it, that's kind of the fun of this map. Maybe they can add a better shadow system? I don't know. Anyway, vents is number 6 on my list because it's unique. The rapid changes of gravity makes this map so much better than all the ones below it on this list. You've always got to be on the move on vents, whether you're climbing, falling, flying, running, or fighting. You will always be having fun on this map. Other than a few small complaints, vents is an almost perfect map. Moving into the top 5 and probably my most controversial ranking, number 5, Ring. I know basically everything I've said about my taste in maps goes against me placing Ring this high on my list, but listen, Ring is so simple it's perfect. And yes, I've called other maps on this list simple, but Ring is different. And if I'm honest, Ring used to be one of my least favourite maps, along with Boy. In fact, I wouldn't blame anyone for putting Ring last on their own ranking. I believe it's the fact that Ring comes down to pure skill more than any other map. There's nowhere to hide on Ring, and any confident player will use that to their advantage. There's nowhere to run, and spamming buttons in the first 3 seconds, containers, will not be enough to get you the win on Ring. Playing constantly on Ring would get boring, I agree, but the occasional round of Ring and a long game of Gang Beasts is sometimes the best thing for everyone. Only the best players win Ring, and that's what I love so much about it. Coming in at number 4, we have Trawler. Honestly, any of these top 4 maps could be number 1 on my list any day of the week. Right now, however, Trawler is lower than the other 3 because of the water and swimming mechanics. Nothing is worse than being thrown in the water and knowing you have about a 90% chance of sinking. Other than that, Trawler is basically a perfect map, and I've loved it since it came out. I'd argue it's the most versatile map in the game. The levers that control the cranes seem a little inconsistent, but that can easily be overlooked. Then you also have the blue cage to hide in, 3 different levels if you're able to get onto the roof, the trapdoors you can open to the pit of death, and running away from the sharks. But easily the best part of this map is the boat sinking. It's just so cool. Sometimes I just let everyone live because I want to let the boat start sinking so we can get to the exciting part of the round. Overall, I love Trawler, and it could easily be number 1 in the future. Number 3, Trucks. Easily the best soundtrack out of any of these 21 maps. Trucks deserves this top 3 spot on my list because it's always action-packed. The randomness of the trucks bumping into each other is always fun, and the signs just add that cherry on top for me. It takes skill to climb into the lower parts of the trucks, and is so rewarding if you do make it in alive. Jumping from truck to truck makes the best thumbnails, and the sounds the characters make when they hit the signs is the best sound in the game by far. You're never gonna have a boring round on trucks. Occasionally, my sister and I will play first to 8 just on trucks. It's one of the few maps where I can play round after round and never get bored. I think all these top 4 maps are my favourites because they are all action-packed. I would love to see a version where that 3rd truck at the back could be brought up a little closer, as it might add some more versatility to the map. At number 2, we have elevators. I was honestly torn between whether this should be number 1 or 2, but it came down to one thing. Starting on the roof of the elevators is sometimes an instant death sentence, like on containers. But starting inside the elevators is a different story. It becomes a perfect map in my opinion. I'm sure my dad would disagree, but that shows our different taste in Gang Beasts maps. Elevators is action-packed from beginning to end, and everything you do on elevators always has that element of risk to it. Whether you're jumping from elevator to elevator, fighting on the roof, or being an idiot like me and trying to break the elevator and making it fall while still on top of it. I don't think anything in this game beats, specifically, destroying an elevator with someone inside of it, watching them fall to their doom, and swinging to the safety of the other elevator successfully. Every round on elevators is fun, without fail. And finally, coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Gondola. I love Gondola for a very similar reason to why I love elevators so much. I love seeing everyone panic when I destroy two of the bars that hold the gondola up. It is so rewarding if you can jump to the safe gondola and leave the others behind to scramble to survive on a vertical gondola holding on by a thread. If you can take one thing away from this ranking, it's that I prefer destroying a map and watching everyone else try and survive the chaos that I've caused, rather than actually fighting them. But anyway, right now Gondola is my favourite map because every round is fun and action-packed. And to be honest, I hope one day they add new maps that have the potential to dethrone Gondola. There's rumours of a new crane map which I'm very much looking forward to. And you know, a funny thing, in my latest Gang Beast tournament with my dad and sister, where we played 10 games, Gondola was the only map that I never won on, but it's still my favourite. But anyway, that has been my ranking of all 21 Gang Beast maps. See you later.